Jim Kunkel here. Make sure that you subscribe to my channel and set the notification bell to all so that you won't miss any of my new content. The proper design, construction, and maintenance of the secondary containment system with an industrial facility is paramount to containing leaks and spills from the primary storage tanks or vessels. The main purpose of a secondary system is to contain the spill until it can be neutralized, cleaned up, and disposed of properly. A secondary containment structure must be designed with a high degree of chemical resistance to the lesser degree than that of a primary system. Especially in older facilities, many of these containment structures were built from formed concrete due to the cost of material and ease of application. Concrete alone is not a suitable material in providing effective chemical resistance or a reliable barrier for the permeation of most acids and chemical concentrations. The permeation into the concrete will cause severe degradation and cracking, allowing the acid or caustic substance to leach out and contaminate the environment. Welcome to Global Topic. I'm Jim Kunkel. Today's episode will be part of a Carboline Technical Series, and today's topic will be on industrial secondary containment. My guest is Justin Manuel from Carboline. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hey, Justin, if you could do me a favor and go through your role and responsibilities with Carboline.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a product line manager. There are a few of us here in the company. We're responsible for a subset of specific Carboline products within the company's product line. My responsibilities include tank linings, our entire set of tank linings, resinous flooring, and our secondary containment products, specifically under the Semstone brand.
So I really do appreciate you going through that. So, Justin, for those people who are watching this episode who might have limited or no knowledge of what industrial secondary containment is and why it's very important for, not only safety, but environmental regulations, could you provide some examples of secondary containment and why they're necessary?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is a really important thing in a lot of different environments, water and wastewater, petrochemical. And when you talk about containment just in general, there's really two types. There's primary containment and secondary containment. And primary refers to the actual storage of a chemical, typically in a tank. And secondary refers to the containment area around the tank that is designed to contain a chemical commodity in the event of a spill or a leak. And these guidelines for these containment areas are dictated by the EPA. There's a section in their regulations, 264.193B, more specifically. And I'll read this. It's a little bit verbose, but I think it's really good information. The guideline reads, they're designed, installed, and operated to prevent any migration of wastes or accumulated liquid out of the primary containment system to the soil, groundwater, or surface water at any time during the use of the tank system, and capable of detecting and collecting releases and accumulating liquids until the collected material is removed. So the standard for the secondary coating system is usually that it's able to withstand the commodity at its temperature for up to 72 hours until the commodity can be collected and removed so as to not cause penetration into the soil or groundwater.
So when we talk about commodity can mean lots of different things. Typically, what are some of those commodities that are in the containment?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge range of chemicals. And in fact, in some of our documents and our chemical resistances guides, we have over 300 chemicals that we have tested against our secondary containment products. So it could be anything from water, simply tap water. Beer is one thing that's actually listed on our secondary containment chemical resistances. That kind of gives me a chuckle sometimes. Or something as aggressive as 98% sulfuric acid. These are all things that can be contained within tanks and that are considered commodities that are not just aggressive by themselves, but oftentimes stored at an elevated temperature, which makes them even more so aggressive. And so we test against all these commodities. We've come up with a list of these chemicals and the resistances, whether or not they're good enough for primary containment or secondary containment for only a certain amount of time. So there's definitely some varying degrees of resistances there for each commodity.
I appreciate you going through and defining what commodities typically are in containment. So let me ask you this, typically what considerations are made when evaluating secondary containment needs?
Yeah, there's really two, and one is probably the most important factor that we just talked about, which is the commodity that's being stored in the primary containment area and the temperature that's being stored at too. That's an important detail. But I think the other one that's often overlooked when designing secondary containment systems is the physical property requirements of the system based on the environment. And there's a number of different areas within secondary containment that can alter the system. And we highlight a few in our literature, but some of those areas are like light or moderate foot traffic and wheeled carts. And typically those would take a light to moderate duty system. Usually just like an aggregate filled coating is enough to handle that. But there are some heavier systems that are used in more aggressive environments like sumps and trenches or underneath of vehicular traffic. Both need those heavy duty systems and typically require a fabric reinforcement to help with the impact, to help with the flexibility of the coating, and to help the coating system itself withstand those physical requirements.
So once the design of secondary containment is developed, what construction details apply, with the containment system?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked, Jim, because this is one of the most overlooked features when designing a secondary containment system. To name a few that require specialized attention, all of these would require a certain attention to detail. What would be like expansion joints, control joints, horizontal to vertical transitions, structural cracks, equipment footings, tank bottoms, foundations, pipe penetrations, sumps and trenches, floor drains and gratings. I mean, those are all things that are details within a secondary containment system that need to be addressed. And we actually have, construction details available to our customers and to engineers to help design around these construction details. And these are all places where seepage can occur if they're not properly addressed. If you have an expansion joint within a secondary containment system that hasn't been filled up with the appropriate joint filler or with the appropriate media, then it can lead to seepage and it could lead to, potentially hazardous waste getting into the groundwater or soil.
That now that the secondary containment requirements have been set, let's talk about the coating systems. Which are really prime solutions that are tasked to provide the barrier protection for the secondary containment?
Yeah, the coatings that we offer, that Carboline offers, and we have a number of different coating solutions that can provide this type of protection. And there are various types of technology, various types of epoxies, and even vinyl esters. So the four staples of our secondary containment line are Semstone 140, 145, 245, and 870. And as I mentioned before, there are different types of technologies. The 140 is an amine epoxy. The 145 is a Novolac epoxy. The 870 is a vinyl ester. And so all of these have varying degrees of chemical resistances. We actually have a brand new system selector guide that goes through each one of these products and highlights their various chemical resistances. And I think we can make that available to your viewers via link on the page here. But it definitely goes through which products have which resistances and which products, which systems have those resistances in terms of the physical properties.
So for everyone watching, I will make sure that in the video description, I will put links to the products and also the solutions page with Carboline's website and additional documentation as well. Justin, what a great conversation, we're having regarding, this topic of, industrial secondary containment and in the coating systems that really help provide that barrier protection. In closing out our conversation, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you would want to cover with the viewers?
Yeah, I think we covered a lot of the main bases with secondary containment, but I just wanted to let people know that we have a multitude of resources available to customers and to engineers who are maybe having trouble struggling with building these systems. We can definitely help you with that. We have a brand new brochure out that's very helpful in just kind of showing a diagram of secondary containment and then going through the systems for it. We have the selector guide that's mentioned. We also have system information sheets that details the application of these products. So we try to take both our applicators and our engineers through the whole process of designing secondary containment systems, so it's not as scary as it may sound. And for the applicators that might be watching, I want to mention that if there's interest in getting started with secondary containment system products, maybe it's something new that you haven't done before, and maybe it's a little bit scary. Carboline can help with this by working with a Carboline field rep or a field technical service to understand these products and systems better. They're very durable but also very easy to work with too. So I would encourage you, if you have questions about that, reach out to us.
Well, Justin, I very much appreciate the opportunity to have a conversation with you today on this topic. It's a very important topic. And as Justin had mentioned, there are resource information available on the Carboline website. And again, I will put links and other information in the video description. Justin, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate the time.
Hey, have a great day.
You as well.
So, Joe, for the lay person who's watching this episode, who might only think that corrosion engineering is related to metal corrosion, as an overview, what else does corrosion engineering relate to?